Good morning to you all. I think that today we are meeting in the light of a major fire that took place in Bombay yesterday. And that fire again highlights what we tell people about insurance, that insurance is not given priority. The initial news reports are telling us that the fire was in a location which was not insured as such, and there were also a lot of other fire hazards which have added to the losses that have taken place. Over the last few years, we have seen the entire insurance sector change drastically, and we feel that the corporates also need to reorient their thinking of insurance. We are coming from a regime which was earlier tariffed. We are now moving to a highly de-tariffed regime which has started from 2007. And we feel that this regime requires each corporate to give a little more attention to insurance, change the focus from just a premium based, price based approach to a more clearer approach which will help both the insurers and their own company understand the business and ensure that claims, which are the basic purpose of the insurance policy, are settled smoothly to the satisfaction of both the insurers and the insured. I'll take you through a small presentation that I have made on this, and I hope that this will give you a little more light on what we believe is the right approach and strategy to insurance. Our topic therefore is optimizing business insurance in the light of our experience over the past few years in handling claims and arbitrations and other issues that come out of the insurance policy itself. Obviously, the best way to understand insurance is to see what the figures tell us about insurance in this country. After full de-tariffing in 2007, we have seen that the Indian non-life sector is growing dramatically. Even in the last year, the sector has grown despite the overall economy stagnating. And we feel that there is tremendous potential for the sector to go further. We are told that estimates of non-life sector in the next few years have the expectation is that the non-life segment will make India reach the top 15 countries in the world by 2020 in terms of the gross premiums. Yet, if you look at the story right now, we can see that as a percentage of GDP, the non-life sector is only about 0.9%, and this amount is a very, very stagnant amount. If we understand the entire segmentation of the industry, we will see that the entire industry is more skewed towards the retail sector, with only about 1/4 of the entire non-life insurance focused on corporate insurance. Of that, there is about 9% is fire and 3% is marine cargo. The sad part is that there is very little insurance of business losses being taken in India, and the skew will be obvious when we come to the slides later on. Where are we today? After de-tariffing, I just wanted to bring to your notice that when we have claims today, we worry about the fact that the insurers may have some problem paying out losses, but I thought that this slide will tell you a story. The story is prior to de-tariff, different types of industries were paying a particular premium. After de-tariff, you can see that the premiums have dropped. For example, a textile mill prior to de-tariff, for a sum insured of 100 crores, would have had a premium of about 24.5 lakh rupees. Today that same premium is about 4 lakh 25,000 rupees, which would indicate that the premium has shrunk by about 85%. This is not just true in textiles, this is true in every category, and in some cases we've taken discount rates at 90%, 85%. Some cases you are aware that this is even more. So basically the premium per insured is shrinking, and therefore there is no scope for the insured to give attention to the other issues that surround the premium. What is the claim scenario today in the country? The IRDA annual report for 2010-11 released in December 2011 tells us about the claim story and what is happening in the claims in non-life. The report talks about a rejection rate of 2.6% in the non-life segment, with 12.5% of the claims that accrued in the year still remaining unpaid at the end of the year. Overall, the figures indicate that in the year 2010-11, the overall claims increased from 20,000 crores to about 29,500 crores, with most individual segments showing a marked increase in the claim ratios. Once these claim ratios increase, there is more pressure on the system when new claims come in, especially when larger losses come in. This particular slide was put in with the intention of bringing to the notice of all concerned the difference in the way Indians approach insurance. While it is true that most corporates are taking a lot of insurance covers, we can still see the major retail bias that happens. In the 9/11 loss that took place in New York, 29.85% of the claims that were reported, of the total 40 billion or so that were reported, with a total about 33,000 claims were reported there. About 29.85% claims were BI claims and 29.85% were liability claims. You can juxtapose that against the actual Indian context, where there is such limited liability and business interruption covers taken that these numbers are not even relevant. As against that, if you look at the Mumbai floods of 26/7, there were a large chunk of the claims, in fact, were motor claims, and there were about 10,000 business claims. Very few claims came on business interruption and liability. Increasing claim rejections are happening. This is a direct extract from the IRDA report of 2010-11. As I told you, the claim rejections are increasing, but since the claim rejection figure is reported for the entire segment, including other items, including health and motor, we don't know the exact rejections in the business segment. But what is very important and relevant in this report is that rejections occur largely due to technical defaults and in inadequate policies. And even if you take a correct policy, there could be rejections that occur simply because of various technical lapses on part of the insured. If you look at the slide in question here, you will see that there are a large number of rejections occurring due to delays in intimation of claims, delays in submission of claim documents, and repudiations due to breach of warranty. These are critical items which easily could have been insured by the policyholders and which could have been taken care of in such a way that the claims that would come out of the entire exercise would have been easily payable. Unfortunately, this area is completely neglected. Even in terms of the proposal and the underwriting related issues, there are so many issues arising because corporates have not opted for the right covers, they have not opted for the right add-ons, or if they have opted for the right add-ons, they have not ensured that their company is complying with the requirement of that particular add-on. So as I said, rejections will occur in spite of correct policies. It's not just enough to believe that we've taken the right policy. It is very important to realize that the policy document has to be backed by a complete system which ensures that the claims that come out of the policy are paid. Obviously, as I told you, the losses are increasing. We are told by the IRDA, we are told by the government of India that the PSUs have reported very large losses in the last year, and the insurers are finding that there's a lot of pressure on the balance sheets because of excessive competition. So what are the insurers doing? The insurers have been left with very little choice because they cannot increase the premium rates. So they have added to their armory certain things which they feel will help them monitor the quality of the risk and reduce the overall claim payouts. So they have added, or they have started focusing more on warranties and conditions which become relevant to the policy. It is important to note that a warranty and a condition which is inserted by an insurer could actually vitiate the basic cover that you are taking. So it could very likely happen that the warranty, if it is not complied with, could result not only in reduction of a claim, it could result in the claim being settled on a non-standard basis, or it could result in the claim itself being rejected if the condition is violated. The second thing is that now insurers are focusing on the fine print. Earlier, it would happen that insurers would very often ignore certain aspects of insurance in as much as that certain clauses would be given less heed to, but this is not happening. A case in point is the contribution clause. Recently, we are finding in a lot of situations where goods are sent to a processor for processing, or they are sent to a warehouse for storage, and in case of a loss, two policies exist at the same time. One could be the policy taken by the warehouse keeper or the processor for the goods held in trust by him. The other could be the policy which has been taken by the insured themselves. The earlier principle that was normally followed was all the policies that were taken by the insureds themselves would be excluded from the purview of the warehouse keeper's policy, and only the balance residual stock would be taken into account while settling or assessing the losses under the warehouse keeper's policy. This was very much in line with the principle given in the policy, which would say that contribution between policies would occur only if there was more than one policy which covered the subject matter or the property insured under the warehouse keeper's policy. Unfortunately, the insurers recently have started taking a stand that if there are multiple policies, it is necessary for all the policies to contribute to the insurance claim, and as a result of this, lot of claims we are handling recently have had issues in settlement, with some litigations also happening. One more thing that the insurers are doing to try and help the client improve his risk profile is conducting risk inspections. The clients, normally we recommend that they do get a risk inspection done from the insurers because it helps the insurers understand the risk better. But it is important that if the insurers come out with recommendations, especially those that are condition precedent to the underwriting of the risk, the insured should ensure that those recommendations are looked at and implemented, or there are problems when the claim comes in. One more thing that has happened over the years is that when the insurers found that it is difficult to increase premiums, in order to control the overall incurred claim ratios, the excesses under the policy have been increased. The excess under a policy effectively is the minimum amount under the policy which the insured is required to pay himself as part of the claim. Over the years, this excess has gone up substantially from a minimum of 10,000 before the changes to an amount as large as 50 lakhs for a policy cover of more than 2,500 crores. So this becomes one more this thing which will help the insurers control the claims. The insurers also have started restricting covers to certain businesses or business segments or locations which are risky. A case in point would be Bhiwandi, which is a major location for storage outside Bombay. A lot of insurers today are showing reluctance to cover Bhiwandi, and as a result of it, lot of the locations in Bhiwandi are finding it very difficult to get renewals. So overall, the insurers have been left with no option but to try and use other methods to ensure that they are covering better quality of insured people and that they are able to handle claims better. This was the point that I made about claims. If you notice, business interruption has substantially been increased in terms of the excess. From an earlier excess of 3 days of GP, now it has gone to about 7 days of gross profit. Whereas in case of larger claims and in IAR policies, this has gone to 14 days of gross profit. This is a substantial amount because when you talk about gross profit figures, every day's gross profit for a large organization could be substantially large. In case of fire claims, as I told you, the earlier excess was only 10,000 in case of a fire claim especially. Now this excess has been increased based on the sum insured, and you can see as per the table there that this excess ranges from 10,000 for policy where the sum insured is less than 10 crores and goes to 50 lakhs for some policy where sum insured is more than 2,500 crores. So effectively for the first 50 lakhs there is no claim payable for most people who are having policy of more than 2,500 crores. But this is now changing. The government at the highest level, the IRDA and the insurers themselves are realizing that a competitive environment which has such large discounts being offered to the clients cannot survive in the long run. Normally, globally, if you look at de-tariffing, wherever de-tariffing has taken place, normally it is seen that premiums start hardening after 4 years or so. We are now almost into a 6th year, and we believe that the government has now taken the first step towards trying to ensure that the premiums are right sized, because eventually insurers who may not be able to make profits will find it tougher to settle claims. So premiums have to be right sized, and this is what is going to happen. The first salvo has been fired by the government of India. They have issued circulars to the chairmen and managing directors of all the 4 PSUs. The circulars are dated 30th May 2012 and they cover health, motor and fire insurance, and they have specific guidelines given to insurers from the public sector units which tell them henceforth what is it that they are required to do while insuring corporates. What is it that has been suggested? The government has now said that the public sector enterprises have to ensure that the claim ratios should not exceed 100% overall, including management expenses, including the brokerages and commissions being paid. This, if you look at the previous slide, you would realize that we are talking about claims incurred of 86% in fire and 96% in marine. So this is a big challenge, and this definitely is going to result in some increase in premiums once the policies or the proposals by the government are implemented on the floor. Another critical aspect of this new circular which has come out is that there cannot be competition between public sector enterprises for business entities of a fire policies where the sum insured is exceeding 100 crores. This would mean effectively that if you are insured with one public sector enterprise, you cannot then go quote hunting from another public sector enterprise if your sum insured is more than 100 crores. Any such quote can be released by another public sector enterprise only with the permission of the chairman and managing director, who has to be given cogent reasons as to why you wish to approach that particular insurer. It is also a critical aspect of this particular circular that discounts cannot be offered to companies beyond the previous level where the claim ratio is in excess of 70%. In case of lower claim ratios, higher discounts should not normally exceed 10% without the sanction of the head office. So this itself is going to ensure that the public sector enterprises have to critically examine how they will start quoting herein forward on fire policies of corporates. We believe that once this is given effect on the ground, private sector also will start following suit, because they will also not have to worry about excessively high discounts given by the public sector enterprises, and then it may result in the overall premiums going up for the corporate sector. So it is important that the corporate sector understands this and starts increasing its focus on the insurance segments. A very, very critical suggestion or direction given by the government in this circular is that insurers in public sector enterprises must now form teams at the divisional office levels to handle and investigate losses which they term as large losses. Now the definition of large losses as given in this government circular is losses in excess of 20 lakhs. These losses are now required to be investigated by the insurance company to check that the losses are not exaggerated and not fraudulent. Automatically this is going to mean that the way the losses are addressed by the public sector enterprises is going to be different from the past. It is going to be more stringent and there will be more accountability. This very likely could result in right sizing of claims. It could likely result in some delays because of the investigation process that may have to be involved. The most critical direction or suggestion given by the government in this particular circular, which I think is required to be noted by all concerned, is that the insurers are now being encouraged in the public sector to look at initiating criminal action in case of fraudulent claims. It is an obvious ingredient of every policy that is issued by the insurers that any claim which has been increased by the insured or any person on his behalf is to be rejected or repudiated by the insurers on that ground. In the past, it was always a standard procedure that such claims would be repudiated and the files would be closed as no claim. However, in light of the recent government directions, it is now expected that the PSUs may not just end up closing the file, they may also have to consider whether the claim now merits a filing of a criminal complaint against the insured for further action. Now this is not just in fire, this is something which has been recommended in fire, motor, health and so on and so forth, and this could be something that may start featuring in the coming years. So what is the effect of all these directions given? One of the effects that we are told when we discuss the matter with various insurers is that it is likely that the premiums may revert to pre-2007 levels. 2007, you will remember, is a time when the entire premiums were completely de-tariffed from the earlier floor rate that was prescribed by the IRDA. Obviously, the PSUs will now have much stricter underwriting norms for fire, for group mediclaim, for motor and for everything, with greater accountability in the way the policies are underwritten. It is very, very likely that this will be more system driven, less of discretionary powers will be there, and so it is important that we as a corporate entity understand that we will have to appreciate that if we get a policy which is incorrectly done or which is based on the discretion of the person concerned, it may not stand good in the long run. Obviously, all this will possibly result in some delays. There could be litigation and action before the entire segment corrects itself and we then start looking at a overall smoother flow of claims. So what is it that we expect from the corporates? So what is it that we recommend to the corporates? We believe that the corporates should get out from the earlier mindset of focusing only on premiums. Unfortunately, most corporates that we see today are still looking at premiums as an exercise which requires that the best quote is given the highest priority. Sometimes it happens that the best quotes that come in may also come in with certain warranties or certain excesses attached to them, which may ultimately vitiate the very purpose of taking the covers. So our belief is that it is important that every corporate looks at insurance as a key area, as a key thrust area, which is as important as actually managing profits of the business. What are the key covers that a corporate should look at largely? We are largely aware that besides miscellaneous covers that a corporate could take and vehicle covers, the four key areas that we feel that each corporate should focus on are fire, marine liability and business interruption. Fire fire, you are aware, could be under the standard policies or it could be under declaration policies. When fire policies are taken, it is very critical that we understand that the fire policies come with certain automatic add-ons, they come with certain exclusions, they come with certain things that need to be added based on the nature of the industry. A case in point, for example, is the industry or is the pharma sector. A lot of our clients who are in the pharma sector, we explain to them that a large portion of their stock could be in the reactors when a fire takes place. It is one of the conditions of the fire policy that such losses are normally not covered. They can be covered by taking an additional cover and paying more premium for it, and it is suggested that these pharma companies always consider taking of such covers. Similarly, when we talk about logistic participants, logistic insureds or policy holders have to be very careful because they have to take fire covers based on their role as bailees. They need to understand how they have projected themselves in their contracts and ensure that they are able to make the policy pay out in case of losses. Logistic holders we always worry about also from the point of view that very often, since the cargo that they maintain is not owned by them, it is very difficult for them sometimes to obtain documents required for arriving at value at risk in case of a loss, and they must have a ready system in place for this. If we look at a marine marine covers now are evolving. There are so many different options available in the market, from a single voyage cover to a sales turnover policy. It is important that the corporate analyze exactly which policy suits them and ensure that once they take the right covers, they are able to maintain those covers by complying with all the technical issues that the cover requires them to do. It is not just about taking the cover. A claim that comes out of these covers largely depends on compliance with various policy conditions that occur when the actual transactions take place. Liability again is a very key area in business. Some of the largest corporates are often told that they must more closely examine the liability covers, not just in terms of simple covers like workman compensation, but in terms of more complex covers like product liability and product recall, in D&O covers which are becoming mandatory for listed companies. So these kind of areas have to be given more importance. But one of the key areas which we advocate for our clients is business interruption covers. Our experience over the past many years in consulting on insurance and especially insurance claims is that very often a large number of corporates do not take business interruption covers, as a result of which they find that large interruptions in their business activity go uncovered. It could very likely be that a fire policy may not cause a fire in the premises may not cause a large damage, but it could cause a large interruption in business activities. We have handled claims where sometimes the interruption losses are 10 times larger than the fire losses, and if you do not take the business interruption covers, it could well mean that the corporate has lost a large chunk of its profitability because of this small error. What are the key concern areas that we see in corporate insurance strategy today? Largely we see that corporates are following a patch approach where policies are taken based on just putting together some covers. The covers are not part of a larger strategic exercise which have been undertaken to understand the overall risk of the organization. The covers have not been timed in a particular manner. The covers have not been broken up into different components. For example, a case in point recently, when you are aware that you are covering different zones in a country, it is very often suggested that the policies that are taken are broken up into 3 or 4 zones, thereby making them more manageable, thereby keeping the excesses low because the excess is based on the sum insured, and thereby helping you overall ensure that the claim turnaround times are much faster. So it is believed that there must be a strategy that has to be taken into account by the corporate while implementing the insurance matrix. The second thing is, as I told you, there's largely a gap in the insurance grades. While we normally find that corporates take the required covers for fire, maybe liability, but they do not have the right grade, as a result of which there are lots of gaps that appear on account of what is assumed to be insured. We have come across numerous instances where, say, a corporate has taken a property on leave and license from a landlord. It is assumed by the corporate that the landlord has covered the premises for his fitting. It may not be so. It has happened in certain cases that the landlord has not covered it, and in case of a loss, the corporate also is found not to have covered it, and as a result of it, that could be a problem. Very often the corporates employ people who are in their as contractors or subcontractors. Very often it is assumed that the contractors have taken the right covers. The contractors do not have the right covers often, and the entire liability or loss falls back on the shoulders of the corporate and leads to prolonged litigation and problems. Further, as I said, there is a valuation which is now happening, which is largely legacy. A lot of the corporates who we see are not regularly revaluing their assets in the context of the policy. The valuation process is largely based on 2 or 3 normal modes. One is by adding an inflation rate on the previous cover without paying heed to how that asset may have changed over the last 1 year, without any heed to the replacement value of the asset in the context of the nature of the asset, but more by rote in order to complete the insurance exercise. Also, it happens that very often we see, especially in the small and medium corporate enterprises, that the valuation is based on the block of assets as per the balance sheet. This is the most dangerous valuation process followed, because insurance policies either pay you for reinstatement value if you opted for reinstatement value, or for market value, or for value in general, value being defined as normally the replacement cost of that particular type of asset, especially in the case of stock. Most corporates do not maintain proposal forms. Proposal forms are a mandatory or an important part of your policy. They are as important as the policy document, because the entire insurance segment is driven by the fact that this is a contract between the insured and the insurers, and this contract is based on the insured's intent, which is reflected in the proposal form which has been filled by the insured. If the insured or the corporate entity does not maintain a copy of the proposal form, at times it is difficult for us to understand what it was that was sought to be insured, and in case of a claim, it is difficult for us to establish that the insured intended for a particular cover which may or may not have ultimately actualized on the policy. One more critical issue which we advise clients is, please identify your insurers. They are not just vendors, they should be looked at more as partners, because they are expected to support you in times of loss. Corporates, if they end up doing vendor hopping or insurer hopping every year, result in a policy which is highly detrimental to the company's interests. Insurers who do not understand the risk because they have not been given time very often find it difficult to work on the long-term basis. This is a slide which I thought would be relevant to all the corporate entities based on the current issues that are now coming in fire policies, what we feel the corporate should look at doing, and what are the warranties that are to be looked at by you when you get your policies. As I told you, disclosures and valuation are a critical part. You must disclose what you actually intend to do. Once you've made it very clear what you need to cover, then it is for the insurers to give you the right covers in that context. So it is important that you please make the adequate and the correct disclosures. Second is, once the policy documents come in, please check the policy documents. Very often it happens that the policy documents have errors in them which you may find difficult to rectify in case of a claim. Please ensure that policies are not taken and filed away. They should be taken, and after that they should be maintained. There are various conditions which have to be complied with, especially if you have policies which are in the nature of declaration policies. If the declarations are not made, then the policy document has actual no meaning when the claim comes, because there are a lot of issues that will come up. And as I said, make sure all the technical compliances are done by you when you take a policy. What the critical warranties that you should look at in a fire? In a fire policy, a lot of new warranties are coming in terms of helping the insurers contain their risks. These warranties relate to the height of the plinth. Some insurers are putting warranties saying that the plinth level should be above 3 feet, especially in flood prone areas. There could be a time access for flood areas where they could say 30 days, first 30 days are not covered for floods. There could be a warranty regarding firefighting equipment, not just that it should be there, but that it should be maintained, that it should be active and operating at the time of a loss. There could be warranties regarding electrical installations, that the electrical installations are properly maintained to avoid problems relating to short circuit. And a critical issue which we are now seeing, some insurers, especially in the public sector, have started talking about the necessity for adequate licenses. This is especially so in case of people who are in the logistics sector where they are storing goods. It is important to ensure the licenses may be in place. The insurers have started asking for this as condition precedent when the claims are being settled, though this is still not part of the policy. Similarly, there are various areas in marine which are critical. Marine policies, as I told you, require a lot of compliances during the actual policy period. It is important that we ensure that we look at the policy correctly and we maintain it properly. Some of the key areas which you need to look at are the sanction limitation clause. Please always check whether the countries to which you are exporting are included by the insurers in the sanction limitation clause. This is a clause which is slightly of a viscous nature because this is a continuously changing list. For example, you would be aware that some countries have recently been included because of turmoil internally. So there are lots of, there is a very pressing need to look at this clause. It is also important for you to check the classification of the vessels. In case your cover does not extend to vessels which are beyond a particular age or which are not classified, you need to please ensure that you are checking the quality of the vessels in which the covers are with the goods are coming in. Next, you need to check the type of the covers that you are taking. Sometimes the covers themselves are truncated. It could happen that you are not covered for certain segments. It could happen that your transits are terminating at port instead of terminating at warehouse because of the way you've taken the policy. You need to be very, very careful on that. Next is the per bottom or the per conveyance limit, which is the limit that is required for when the goods are being conveyed by you in individual vessels or in individual land vehicles or by air or whatever it may be. It is important to note that the entire risk and the premium has been based on the per bottom limit which you have given to the insurers. Please be careful that in case you are importing or exporting cargo which is in excess of that in a single consignment in a single vessel, please inform your insurer so they are aware of this. Please also look at areas such as intermediate storage, which we assume are automatically covered. Very often when cargo comes into CFSs, you may find that your transits have broken and that you are left with no cover in spite of assuming that the cover is in place. Similarly, for shutout cargo, please ensure that you check your policy to see what your insurer stand is on shutout cargo. Many insurers do not cover shutout cargo, and it could happen that cargo which has not been loaded onto the container could end up being excluded from the policy cover. So what are the warranties you need to look at? You need to look at various warranties, some of which I have reproduced here. Please look at the warranty regarding tail end. Tail end transits are transits which occur when the cargo has moved inland after it has landed at the port. Insurers often end up truncating the covers from ICC all risk cover to ICC B cover based on certain perils only. Also be careful that sometimes the insurers are particular about whether the carrier is carrying the cargo within the permitted carriage load. If it is not, the claims that may arise in spite of you having the right covers could possibly be not payable. Look at also, as I told you, any breaks that happen in your transits. I have always been a very firm believer that every corporate entity must take a business continuity cover. It helps not only in insulating you from business losses that arise after a fire or an insured peril, but it also helps expedite the entire process of the settlement of material damage claim, because the insurer would also like to work with you and trying to ensure that you are able to curtail the length of the interruption. But while taking such a policy, please be careful in deciding the correct specification. There are various specifications which are available. Please choose the right specification, please choose the right covers, and please choose the right indemnity periods. If you are in an industry which has a lot of long lead items which require at least 6 to 12 months for replacement, please ensure that this is factored into your policy when you are taking the covers. So what is the process that we are looking at? The process that we are looking at, which is critical to every corporate, is a process which is a sum total of multiple areas. This is just beyond the policy document. The policy document is a given. We believe that for claims to move smoothly, for better handling of the entire insurance operations of the company, and a policy holder or a corporate must look at some areas of their business which will help them smoothen the entire process. What are those areas? Those areas are that there is a clear need to build better reporting systems. Very often the systems do not facilitate better communication of risk. So very often new risk which has been generated in the system may not have reached the person who is taking the insurance covers, as a result of which he is not able to make the necessary changes or take the necessary covers. Sometimes it happens that contractual liability has been taken on by the entity without passing on the liability or indemnity aspects to the people concerned who take the insurance cover, leaving those portions exposed. Very often there are not adequate standard operating procedures in place which will help the entity maintain the policy through the entire period. These operating procedures should give very clear guidelines on how new risk has to be communicated to the system, how the policy is to be maintained, when the declarations are to be made, how they have to be made to the insurer, and so on and so forth. We also recommend very often that proper standard operating procedures be put into place, because these standard operating procedures